My ex-wife, who we'll call Mary, tried to run me over when she got caught cheating. She struggled financially while my life improved. This is a long story, but I'll try my best to summarize it. There will be multiple parts to get the full picture. Mary and I got married in January 2020. I was 22 at the time, and she was 21. We got married in secret, only telling our close friends. At this time, we were living on campus at our university in Miami, which was far from where our families lived. As soon as we got married, it was a toxic nightmare. For starters, she was secretly texting her ex-boyfriend from high school, who we'll call Jake. She said they were just friends now, but this didn't VDJTMT sit right with me, as he was also her first love. IVJTEMHM, not the type to go through someone's phone, as I wanted to trust her. However, she started hiding her phone screen from me and would go crazy whenever I touched her phone. At some point, I figured out her passcode and checked her messages, but I couldn't find any proof. Fast forward to March 2020, the pandemic hit, and everyone was forced to move back home. We still hadn't told our families, so we wore our rings in secret. Everything seemed okay until the first week of April 2020, when she randomly said she wanted a divorce. It shattered my heart, and I cried and begged her to stay. I asked where I went wrong or if I wasn't doing enough for her. She just said she didn't love me anymore and that she wasn't VJTMT the one for me. For about a week I tried my best to save our marriage, but she was extremely stubborn. At the end of that rough week, I finally accepted that she didn't want to be with me anymore. It was hard to accept, but I figured we shouldn't drag this along. I only asked her to return the wedding rings, but she refused, saying they were a gift and she was entitled to keep them. Legally, she may have been right, but I didn't feel she deserved to keep them as we were no longer together. The rings were real, and I was on a payment plan for them for about 3 years with only 4 months in. We argued over the phone to the point I hung up and cried in bed. My mother asked what was going on, and I confessed everything to her. She held me and told me everything would be okay. The next day, we went to Mary's home and confronted her mother, telling her the truth. It became an argument between our mothers, with Mary upstairs refusing to see me but texting me, asking what I was thinking involving our families. Our mothers agreed that the rings would be given back to me on another day. About 2 days later, I got a call from Mary while at work. She was crying, saying her mother was kicking her out because she got married in secret. She said she still loved me and was willing to give us another try, agreeing to cut off Jake and that we should move in together. Being the idiot in love, I rushed out of work to meet her, and we immediately started looking for apartments. I found us a cheap apartment due to the pandemic, with the move-in date within 3 days. When I got home, I told my parents the news. My mother was not happy and said I was making a mistake. My father was disappointed, but said it was my life, my choice. The next few days, my friends helped me move, and I barely talked to my parents. It was heartbreaking for my mother, and it hurt me to see her upset. The first day in the new apartment, I felt like our marriage was finally moving in the right direction, and I was happy again. However, that happiness didn't last long. A few weeks after moving in, we got invited out for drinks. When we got back home, I went through her phone and found conversations between her and another ex, who we'll call Eric. Seeing those messages took me back to the time when Mary asked me for a divorce, making my legs crumble. From drinking too much, she passed out on the bed, but I woke her by splashing water on her and started screaming. She was confused, still tipsy, but I was furious and yelled at her for hours. At one point, I demanded her to leave as she started to come to her senses. She began swinging at me and chasing me around the apartment, actually punching me a few times and clawing at me. I'm not a violent person at all, so I took the abuse and locked myself in the room to keep her away from me. She started crying and begging me to forgive her, to the point she was on her knees, saying she would do anything to make up for it. We argued, and then slowly started talking about the situation through the bedroom door. Eventually, we both calmed down and went to bed, as it was 4 a.m. when this was happening. I didn't sleep, and when 7 a.m. came around, she woke up with only half the memory of what happened overnight. I yelled everything back to her again, but this time she was sober enough to understand. She pleaded for me to stay, crying that she had nowhere else to go. In that moment, I hated her because I felt she had stolen me from my family, friends, and life. About what I saw in the messages, there was nothing that stated they had done anything physical, at least from what was texted. However, there were conversations that had a lot of tension, such as her calling Eric and suggesting they make a video together, which I still consider cheating. After further arguing, I told her that as long as she promised nothing happened between her and Eric, I better not see her talking to him ever again, or I would leave. This time, she pleaded that nothing ever happened, but during the same conversation, I asked if anything had happened between her and Jake. She paused and then said no. It was that moment that made me want to investigate further. My gut told me this was only the beginning of what was to come and would turn my world upside down. May 2020. When I asked if anything happened between her and Jake, Mary reluctantly responded no, but the way she answered made me suspicious. To add more, when we first moved in April 2020, I was working at a call center about an hour away from our apartment from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. She wasn't working due to her job being closed, so I had to start doing Uber Eats, Postmates, and DoorDash, which would usually be from 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. after work, or whenever on my days off. After the first night we moved in, I got the cold shoulder from her every night. While I was at work, she would text me cute things, saying she loved me and was waiting for me to come home to cuddle. However, once I got home, she would barely touch me or look at me, which led to my discovery about her and Eric. Now we're in June 2020, weeks after the incident. At this point, I'm keeping my distance from her, maintaining my work routine while also trying to finish college classes online. She still wasn't working, and whenever I came home, the apartment was never cleaned unless I did it. Around this time, she adopted a mini golden doodle. When we moved, I brought my dog Max along with us, who she loved dearly until our new dog came around, giving Max the cold shoulder. For the next few months, it was the same routine. We tried to talk and go out on dates, but it always ended in silence. I tried to break the ice and see if we could work it out, but she never wanted to express herself. Little by little, I felt my love for her fading as. That was until October 2020, when she finally opened up to me. She apologized for her treatment over the past few months, and we felt ready to leave the past behind and focus on us. It was us against the world. This felt even more powerful when I caught COVID-19 the following month, and she cared for me the way a wife should. She ended up catching it from me once I recovered, and I returned the favor. After that, we started acting more like husband and wife. She got into my hobbies, like video games, anime, art, and photography, and even joined me on my late-night deliveries, vibing out to music and helping. We discovered new things about each other, went on dates, and it felt heartwarming being in her presence again. The spark between us was finally coming back, but I still held a grudge against her actions, as it was hard to move on from it. Everything was going well until a few days before Valentina's Day, 2021, when I made another discovery. These past months, I still secretly went through her phone every now and then, but never found anything new between her and Eric. However, this time I decided to go a step further, and I were passionate about the sport. She didn't seem to care much, so I thought it would be fine. On Valentine's Day, we had friends over for a sleepover. The night went on without any issues until I went to the kitchen to grab more snacks. That's when Mary stormed in, furious. She started yelling about how I didn't spend enough time with her and how she felt neglected. I tried to calm her down, explaining that it was just one night, but she wasn't having it. Suddenly, she grabbed a kitchen knife and started waving it around, screaming that she couldn't take it anymore. My friends rushed in and managed to disarm her, but the look in her eyes terrified me. She had reached a breaking point, and I realized then that I couldn't ignore the severity of our situation any longer. My friends left soon after, concerned for my safety, and I was left alone with Mary, who had calmed down but was crying uncontrollably. I knew I needed to get out, but I didn't know how. The next few days were tense. Mary apologized repeatedly, promising it would never happen again, but I couldn't shake the fear. I started making plans to leave, reaching out to friends and family for support. By June 2022, I had saved enough money to move out and started looking for a new place. When I finally told Mary I was leaving, she broke down. She begged me to stay, saying she would change and do whatever it took to make things right. But I knew it was too late. The trust was gone, and the relationship had become toxic beyond repair. I moved out in July 2022, staying with a friend until I could find my own place. The transition was hard. I missed the good times we had, but I knew I made the right decision. Slowly, I started to rebuild my life. I reconnected with old friends, picked up my hobbies again, and focused on my career. By the end of 2022, I felt like a new person, free from the emotional chains that had held me back for so long. Looking back, IDOWKHereLady's clear that leaving was the best decision I ever made. It wasn't easy, and there were moments I doubted myself, but in the end, it was worth it. I found my happiness again, learned to love myself, and realized that sometimes the hardest choices lead to the greatest rewards. As I tried to piece my life back together, my friends and family were a constant support. They helped me to slowly start filling the void after I left Mary. Over the next few months, I focused on my job and hobbies, trying to find joy in the little things. My parents, especially my mother, were a great help. They didn't pry into what had happened, but were always there when I needed to talk. I reconnected with friends I had lost touch with during my marriage, and their support meant the world to me. One day in September 2022, I decided to clean out the bedroom. As I was going through Mary's old things, I stumbled upon more messages and notes that confirmed the extent of her deceit. It was painful, but also a strange relief to know that I had made the right decision in ending things. It felt like the final piece of the puzzle had fallen into place, and I was ready to move forward. As time passed, I began to feel more like myself again. I picked up my art supplies and started drawing and painting, something I hadn't done in years. I went back to photography and videography, capturing moments that brought me peace and happiness. I even got back into my old routine of jogging in the mornings, something that had always cleared my mind and started my day off right. In October 2022, I reconnected with an old friend, Naomi. We had known each other from college but had lost touch over the years. Naomi was going through her own struggles, and we found solace in each other AmITheA's company. We started hanging out more, just as friends at first, but as time went on, our connection deepened. She understood the pain I had gone through and never judged me for my past. Her kindness and support helped me heal more than I ever thought possible. By December 2022, I was in a much better place. My job was going well, I had reconnected with my passions, and I had started dating Naomi. She was a light in the darkness, and for the first time in a long time, I felt genuinely happy. We spent the holidays together, creating new memories and traditions that filled my heart with warmth and hope. Reflecting on everything, I realized that sometimes the hardest decisions lead to the most rewarding outcomes. Leaving Mary was one of the toughest choices I had ever made, but it was also the most necessary. It allowed me to find myself again, to rediscover my passions, and to open my heart to new possibilities. I learned to love myself and to never settle for less than I deserved. As I look to the future, I feel hopeful and excited. Life is unpredictable, but I know now that I have the strength to face whatever comes my way. With the support of my friends, family, and Naomi, I am ready to embrace the new chapter of my life, full of promise and endless possibilities. There was a time when Mary and I were inseparable, and the love we shared felt unbreakable. Despite everything, those memories still held a place in my heart, making it hard to completely hate her. After moving out, I gradually started rebuilding my life. My art and photography became a therapeutic escape, and I found joy in capturing the world through my lens again. Naomi and I grew closer, and her presence was a balm to my wounded heart. She understood the complexities of my past and never judged me for the pain I carried. By early 2023, I had found a new rhythm in life. I had moved into a small apartment of my own, decorated with pieces of my art and photographs. It felt like a fresh start, a place where I could finally breathe and find peace. Naomi and I decided to take things slow, but our relationship blossomed in ways I hadn't expected. She was a constant source of support and joy, helping me heal and look forward to the future. Meanwhile, Mary's life seemed to spiral further out of control. She reached out less frequently, but when she did, it was often to ask for financial help. I remained firm in my decision to cut ties, knowing that enabling her would only prolong her struggles. It was tough, but I had to prioritize my own well-being and growth. One evening in late spring, I received a call from Mary. She was drunk, as usual, and crying about how she missed me and wished she could turn back time. This time, instead of anger or pity, I felt a strange sense of closure. I calmly told her that it was time for both of us to move on, that our lives had taken different paths, and that I wished her the best, but could no longer be a part of her journey. It was a difficult conversation, but necessary for both of us to finally start healing. By summer 2023, the divorce was finalized. It felt like a weight had been lifted, and I celebrated with a small gathering of close friends and family. Naomi was by my side, and we toasted to new beginnings. The future seemed brighter than it had in a long time. Looking back, I realized that every hardship had taught me valuable lessons about love, resilience, and self-worth. Mary's betrayal had shattered me, but it also forced me to confront my own fears and insecurities. I learned to stand up for myself, to value my own happiness, and to never settle for less than I deserved. As the years went by, I continued to thrive. My career took off and my art gained recognition. I traveled, explored new places, and made lasting memories with Naomi's. We eventually moved in together, and our home became a sanctuary filled with love and creativity. Mary faded into the background of my life, a distant memory of a time when I was a different person. I heard through mutual friends that she eventually found some stability, but we never reconnected. It was better that way for both of us. In the end, I found peace in knowing that I had overcome the darkest chapter of my life and emerged stronger, wiser, and ready to embrace the future with open arms. The scars of the past were still there, but they no longer defined me. I was free, and that freedom was the greatest gift of all. I'm also considering therapy to work through some of the lingering issues and emotions from my past relationships. It's important to address these feelings and not let them fester. I want to be the best version of myself, for me and for my love. Naomi's to everyone who has read my story. It's been incredibly cathartic to get all of this off my chest. Life is unpredictable and often challenging, but it's also full of potential and new beginnings. As I move forward, I'm hopeful and excited about the future. I know there will be more obstacles to overcome, but I feel more equipped to handle them now. With the support of my friends, family, and the new sense of self-worth I've discovered, I'm ready to embrace whatever comes next. So here's to new beginnings, to growth, and to finding happiness in unexpected places. I'm looking forward to the journey ahead, and I'm grateful for the lessons I've learned along the way.